Okay. Go ahead. We can start now.
Okay. So with I'm finishing up the task 3 in the OMA, and I have everything done, and I've done my presentation and everything. My problem is that it's going to the school improvement team, and they don't meet until week after next. And so I can't write my principal wants to adopt my schedule, which is awesome, but I won't have a final decision in time to turn it in.
Don't wait on them. Just if he's okay with it or she, then let that be your presentation.
Okay, so as long as so I can put in there that the principal and the committee that I reported it to were on board. It just is going to go through to the school improvement team next.
Let me think on that one. We're going to fudge. I'm going to let you go ahead and say that you have presented it to, since the principal's on board, that's all that matters. So just, I want you to write it up as if you have presented it to both of them.
Okay.
And nobody, and that's between you and me, okay?
Okay, yeah. The other thing was, it talks about alignment with any related school improvement team findings, talking about the schedule.
Right.
And the analysis of the schedule. Any related school improvement team findings, could that be, like, I know that our school improvement team is working on absences, and along with that, we have a lot of tardies because of when our intervention time is. It's first thing in the morning. And so my proposal was to move it to the middle of the day so that we were starting off with the core class at the very beginning of the day, and that might help with tardies.
That's very good. Yes, that is a finding.
Okay, and so even though they are talking about tardies, the primarily thing the school improvement team is doing is working on absences. But when they did, they started realizing that absences from classes is an issue too, not just absence from school.
And what I would say, Lori, is I would say all that, and I would say that in their discussion that they realized that, that when you looked at tardies, when you looked at absenteeism, that this was all majorly impacting overall student achievement for the school. So the plan is to try to look at solutions to address those areas that you recognize that was having a negative impact on student achievement.
Okay, and when I first talked to my principal, he had mentioned moving that intervention time to the end of the day. And what I said was that I felt like that if we're at the beginning of the day, they're checking in late, at the end of the day, they'll check out early. And so my suggestion was to do it in the middle of the day, which he went along with. Would you even mention that, or would you just leave that alone?
No, I would talk about that. I think that's because that is good conversation between you and the administrator and the principal, and then based on that conversation, a decision was you came to some common ground. So I would say that.
Okay. Okay, those are my only questions.
Okay. Have you looked at task 4 yet to know what you've got to do next?
I know it's the reflection on the different competencies.
It's easy. There's 12 of them, I think. I think it's 12, but that's a matter of just reflecting on that. And once you do that, once I look at 3 and say 3's okay, 4 will be fast. You'll finish that pretty fast.
Okay.
And then
I would like. I mean, I know I'm not turning it in till today, and it's the last minute. But trying to schedule the meetings and trying to get all that, it just seems to take a while to get all the people in place that you need to talk with in order for all this to happen.
Right. And you're exactly right. And sometimes you're far enough along now. I don't want it to be. I do want you to involve your committee as much as possible. But at this point, if you run into a wall and you just can't get you know what to do at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And you make it work, and then sometimes you have to go ahead and do some things and then share it with them. And you can always go back and make adjustments if you need to.
Okay.
But don't let walls stand in your way of moving forward at this point.
Okay. It's so fast.
Right. It is.
And
It
trying
is.
to get all those people together in a timely manner, and
Right.
trying to get it done week to week is just hard.
Where you are now, you really don't have. You still have to meet with them, but you don't have to meet with them as much as you have had to meet in the past. With some of them.
Okay.
You don't. You still want to meet with them, but you may not have to meet as often as you have in the past.
Okay.
So just make sure that it's enough, but you don't have to overdo it.
Okay. All right. Well, those were my only questions. Was there anything else you were going to talk about tonight?
No, I really came on because most people are bringing closure to that, and then it's hard to go ahead and look at that. I did pull the skip up just in case anybody was asking a question, but I know most people, they want to go ahead and get the OMA knocked out before they even begin looking at that. And by next week you should have an opportunity to look at it, and then if you've got any questions, I can begin looking at that. But now the skip does not have a template. You've got to create your own based on what you've learned from the first three, and that shouldn't be a problem though.
No, it's pretty much what's in the book.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what's in it.
Yeah, and you know what to do now. I mean, it's just a matter of you create your own headings based on what you've already seen. If it's if there's an action plan involved, you've got you've got what you need to do your action, to do your action plan. You follow the same format,
Okay.
with that. But this one is the skip and the cap. Is pretty independent. You have to create your own, and then when we get to the SIOP at the end, we give you another template to pull it all together.
Okay.
But I'll still be around to look at things, and you can play off me like like you've been doing. So that's okay.
Okay.
I hope this is helping the way I'm doing this.
Yes, definitely. And when and I should be able. I'll have 3 turned in tonight, and I'm planning on having 4 turned in tomorrow, because I don't think it's going to be. It's just a matter of going through, and
Right.
I don't really have any trouble with the reflection part. So.
Now, when you do your reflection, if there are artifacts that go with them, I would go ahead and I would identify those artifacts, and remember that can be the 21 that you submit this time.
Mm-hmm.
Artifacts, so if they're there, I would go ahead and match them up and just put them in the bank wherever you're putting them and saving them, while you're doing that, so that you don't have to go back and revisit that if you don't have to.
Now, our artifacts, can they come from the class as well, or
Yes.
do they? Okay.
They can come from the class. They can come from
the readings and
readings. They can come
Okay.
from your internship experiences.
right.
As long as it relates to whatever it is that if it's communication, as long as it relates to that and it ties back into your role as an aspiring administrator.
Okay.
So, all you're doing is just, and there's many ways that you can do that.
Okay. Well, I'm getting a lot more out of the class part this semester than I did last semester. So I have a feeling there'll be more.
And you should, and it's designed that way. When we first start with you, the first semester, we're so busy trying to just help you understand where you are and get you acclimated into the program. So we understand that that we're limited in some of the instructional things that we can provide. Mm-hmm. However, we have made some revisions this semester, and it's working better. So we're able to get more into curriculum issues as it relates to what we're doing than we were last semester. But each time we grow with it too. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the first semester is quite overwhelming.
It is very
You
overwhelming.
have to get used to the pace and the writing and the, and all that. So I can understand that.
Yeah, that's it. So, and who is your instructor this time?
Dr. Whitaker.
Dr. Whitaker. Okay. So
She and Dr. Z are taking turns leading the class.
Right, and that's good. I talked with Dr. Z this morning, or not this morning. Talked with her after lunch. When I got home from church, she called me about something. So that's it. So
yeah, they are very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying working with them.
well, that is great. I'm glad to
They're
hear
giving
that.
us lots of real life stuff.
And that's what we wanted out of the 603
And
class.
Dr. Todd did that last semester. She's very knowledgeable, and she's worn a lot of hats, and so she's able to see it from a lot of different perspectives. So yeah, so far it's been great.
That's great, Lori. Thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that. So, but anyway, if you need me, I will be available tonight, and I will look at your work before I go to bed tonight if you submit it.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a good evening. I hope you feel better.
Thanks, Lori. I'm okay. I just having to be careful. So.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you later.
Okay, Lori.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Sherry.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great.
How can I help you this evening?
Okay, my first question is about OMA Task 4.
Okay.
And we're doing 12 competencies, right?
Right.
And so we have a list of 21. Are we just choosing 12? I went to TaskStream first and got 6 that I would have been loaded in TaskStream anyway for OMA.
Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at this. Okay, the candidate will reflect on the OMA experience by aligning the course content to the clinical experience. The candidate will also reflect on development of competencies that are so critical to structure. Candidates reflect on the OMA experience by critically assessing personal development by Choosing the course to detail. Master candidates must submit a minimum of 12 evidences. Yes, and what you'll do is you'll do 12 this time, and then when you get to the skip, next you'll do the ones that you don't do this time. You'll do those the next time.
Okay.
So it's just whichever 12 you want to address, and then the other 9 will come the next time.
Very good. And that helps a lot. And I see you have the skip up. And so I just want some clarification on that, because Dr. Z mentioned it, but she said that she wasn't going to get into it too much last week because she wanted us to read through all of this.
Right. I just pulled it up just in case somebody did have a question. Have you gotten to that place yet?
I did read over it like she suggested that we do this past week so that we could start on it this week coming up.
What would your question be then? Let me see.
I just want to clarify that I am creating a team, and when we're saying that we're looking at the external and internal communications, we're talking about, let me pull it up myself. I don't know where I put it. I was just on it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it says that I'm forming a team or leading a team, and we're assessing the gaps in communication between the internal and the external communities.
Right. Okay. And what you're doing is now, and again, I wouldn't recreate the wheel. If the team I had worked, then I'd use my same team.
Okay.
So you don't have time to really start over with things.
Okay.
Sometimes there may be a reason when you go to a new evidence. There may be a reason if somebody can no longer serve, or you may need to swap somebody out. That's okay. But I wouldn't start the whole team over unless I was just having major issues with the whole team.
Okay.
But with this, when it talks about internal and external is looking at your school.
Okay.
That's your school, your whole school environment. Okay. Communication from within your school, and that communication can be from the top down. Okay.
Okay.
And then external is how the communication that goes out into the community that feeds into your school.
Okay.
So you're looking at, and that community would involve parents. It would involve the faith-based community. It would involve your the town or the city where you live, town government. It would involve volunteers, business and industry, anything that would impact your school.
Okay.
Or have that you would need to communicate with.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can see once you get in there, once you get an understanding of that, all of this, again, you're reading all that. That gives you a good understanding. But this is the meat of it right here. And remember, with the skip, you are developing your own template because there is not one for the skip. So you've got to go back and look at what you've done for the APSL, the APTEL, and the OMA. You've got to look at those and follow the pattern that was designed. Each one of them, there's a lot of similarities in all of them.
Yes.
So you go back and you pull from those 3 to develop your own for the skip.
Okay.
You come up with your own format. You come up with your own your headings, and your headings will be based on all of this information. So I think once you get in there, it'll be easy for you to follow.
Okay.
And, once you get here, when you get to prompt 1, you read it, and then that you just follow like you did before. Every one of those boxes you got to write it and you got to do something there. Okay.
Okay.
This time we just don't have it marked in yellow that you've got to write something there.
Right.
You know, anytime you see prompt 1, that means there's a prompt 2.
Yes. And I'm looking at that now, and okay, where it says on the prompt one, a needs assessment should include, and so that is what you're talking about. I would look at that and create my own settings, pull based on information that I have already gleaned from the AppTel, AppSell, and OMA.
That and go to other resources too, Sherry. I would look at, you know, if your school has gone through advanced ed,
We did.
then you know a lot of that information is embedded in your advanced ed reports. Some of it,
Okay.
some of it's there. And what you can do, if you've got to do another needs assessment to get opinions of different communities, they may already have a set of questions in there that you can glean from that what you want.
Okay.
You know, in any other information that would already be out there. There may be surveys that your school has done. And remember, you can be creative with this as well, with your staff, with the parents. If you need to get something back, remember you can always use SurveyMonkey as a tool and get information back.
Okay.
And use that form of technology.
Okay. Okay. Well, this has been helpful.
Well, good. And we'll talk about this more. I'll come online next week, and then you know I'm sure you'll have other questions then. But then you know we can talk about it more as you get into it. But in the meantime, if you run into a brick wall during the week, it's okay to call me and ask me a question. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome, Sherry. Have a good work week.
You too.
You're off tomorrow, right?
No, we have a weather makeup day, so I'll be working.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sherry. Have a good one. Okay,
You
bye-bye.
too.
Hey, Dr. Stedman, how are
Hey,
you?
Sally, how are you doing?
I'm good. I just had a quick question
Mm-hmm.
about OMA 4.
Uh-huh.
It lists the 6 of the competencies we need to focus on, and do we pick others?
Um,
I couldn't see where the others were listed.
where does it say the 6?
I saw it on, Dr. Tillman gave us a paper like this.
Uh-huh. And she
I
told
don't
you
know if
6
you
of
can see
them?
it. First semester, and
Uh-huh.
it lists the competencies and which one for each thing, and it almost starts with customer focus, and let's see, customer focus, and then on the back, let's see, for personal responsibility for performance, sensitivity, systems thinking, instructional technology. Those are the ones I see for OMA.
Okay, well then do those 6 and then you pick 6 others that you want to do.
Okay.
And then
Dr. Todd last time had told us which ones to do.
who did?
Dr. Todd last time told us which ones.
No, you can pick any, and actually I have not seen what you've seen because I would be okay with any 12. It doesn't matter to me. But if you've got to turn them into somebody, then you do those 6 and do 6 more because it's not going to matter. And then what you will do is those 12, and then the other 9 you will do when you do the skip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or PSYOP.
Or
Well, skip.
Yeah, the skip. Yeah, you've got the skip, the CAP, and the PSYOP.
Okay.
You've got to do.
I was just on the phone with Victoria, and we were talking about it, and I said, "Oh, it's office hours. We can go ask Dr. Stedman."
Yes, yes.
I missed the first part of his answer.
But,
He has never seen this paper that I was talking about that Dr. Tillman gave us.
and it doesn't mean that it's not out there. It's just that
I get it.
Dr. Lamb and I don't really focus on that we're not as a stickler on that as much as as long as they're covered between, because actually any semester you're going to cover all 21 of them in some form or fashion.
Well, she was a stickler with it, and I'm not being ugly, but she was a stickler, and so we got hammered lots of times on those competencies.
You know, I won't.
Okay.
I won't, and I don't think, and I think I'll be the final approval on these. So as long as you do 12 of them and then get the other 9 the next time, I'm okay with it. So
okay,
you'll be okay.
She would get upset if we didn't talk about it. Like one of these is kind of hard for me to relate to the OMA. Which one was it, Victoria, we were talking about?
Was it responsiveness, maybe?
Yeah.
I think it was responsiveness.
And I was looking at the description of it, but it's okay if we relate it to school.
Yes.
Something that's happened at school or class or.
As long as you can tie it into your internship or something that would be not teacher oriented but administrative oriented.
Right. Okay. So like where I've been to an IEP or something like that.
Yes. That would be good. And again, don't stress over it. If you can't, as long as you do 12 different ones, I'm okay with that, and get the other 9 the next time. You're going to have to get it one time or the other. So, but if you don't get it this time, then you'll put it in on the next one. So I'm not worried about that.
For personal responsibility for performance, we both just had to have a data conference with our principal when we reflected on things with how our students were doing. And I just thought that was a perfect one for how we're responsible for our kids' performance.
Right, and you write that up as an administrator, you are responsible for student performance, and that your administrator modeled
how to do those.
How to do that, and that's a good way to do that. Yeah.
Okay, I even put in the questions that she had us reflect on.
Okay,
And
good.
as administrator, those are the ones you would ask.
Yeah, that's real good. Yes.
Okay. All right. I skipped to 4 because I was stuck on 3.
Okay. That's okay.
Um,
Where are you? And I've looked at so much work. Now
I
you are
know.
through with, are you through with Alma 3?
No, I'm not
I'm
finished
not
with
either.
it. I just started on 4 because I got stuck on 3.
Okay.
And
What-
so
what
I
kind of
went on to 4, so at least I could get started on it.
Now, Victoria, you still there?
Yes.
Don't, either one of you, don't make 4 hard. I mean, 3 hard. 3's not hard. Remember that in the prompt number 1, and I'm just thinking off my head, top of my head. Prompt number 1, you're just taking your existing schedule and you're tearing it apart. That's all you're doing. All, the goods, the bads, the uglies. You're just analyzing it from one end to the other. And then task number 2, you are creating a new schedule, and when you do, remember you've got to reflect on what does the law say that schedule should look like. You've got to tie in some of those things you've learned in your class that you've had to do in class with that, and also you've got to be very cognizant of your special populations when you're doing that as well, especially your exceptional children's program. Because that is one that you have to be so careful that you're meeting the letter of the law with all that. So that's really, I'm not minimizing it, but it's, once you get into it, it shouldn't be a hard task at all, because all you're doing is just tearing it apart, looking at, and you may want to get your committee or 2 or 3 of a couple of people anyway, just to say, look at this and let's talk about it, and just let them generate. They may see something that you don't see.
Okay.
Don't make it harder than what it is for yourself, though.
All right. Can I ask, if I know this doesn't focus on a special population, but I know from talking to and Victoria and I are at the same school.
Yeah, okay.
So from talking to our administrator, and this is her first year as the principal there. She's been an assistant principal, but left for a little while and then came back.
Uh-huh.
I know one of the things we've discussed in great length is how she does not like recess being attached to the end of lunch. So because we have 550 kids. And we have 2 lunch periods, and they all go to recess, half of them after lunch.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking about all the safety stuff, I know that was one of the things she said, if something happens during recess, I hope I die, she said, because I'm going down. So is that something we could put in there to change too?
Yeah, yes. I think that would be great. And realizing that both of you are from the same school, it's going to be the same information, so I understand that. You're just going to, you'll narratively write it a little bit differently than Victoria will, but it's going to be the same information. So
but when we present it to our principal, we need to be on the same page, or else she's not going to go for any of it.
And the thing is, why don't both of you go in and present at the same time?
Yeah, that's what we normally do.
She'll want that because
Yeah.
she's so overwhelmed herself right now, I think. It's like night and day from where she came from.
Right.
And she's just adapting the best she can, honestly. And I think that she would definitely want us, what do you got for me? What do you need to present? I don't think she'd want, well, I need this time, and then Sally's going to come at this time. She's probably
go in and deal with her. Like, I just sent an email today for our next discussion board, and I CC Victoria to ask our assistant principal to meet with us about discipline. It's just easier if we do it together.
That makes sense, and that's good thinking on your parts, because their time is so limited, And the thing is, if you're needing things, the 2 of you, and you probably already have, collaborate, and if it's something that Sally, you ask for, you make sure you get it for both of you, and if Victoria, if you ask for something, you get it for both. So so somebody's not having to go back twice and bother
Yes.
that person.
But see, we kind of ran into a problem last semester. We were not allowed to do the same focus on our needs.
That's why I'm going over it with you.
Right.
You and Dr. Lamb seem a little bit more, and I work also with Kelly McLean, and she had y'all last semester.
Uh-huh.
I've talked to her a lot, and I know that y'all have been a little more relaxed with some of the requirements. Not in a way where you're not having them do it, but just you realize the real world.
Right.
And I'm not trying to put anybody else down, because I like Dr. Tillman, but she was just old school.
It's just hard for me and Sally because not only are we in the same building, we are on the same team. We are both self-contained 5th grade GT teachers.
Right.
And so when you're doing a needs assessment for your students and we teach the exact same thing, she didn't want us to both focus on the same thing, but it made it a little bit difficult to work together in that way.
You're at a place now that a lot of your information will be the same. I would say that as you're moving into the skip and the CAP, you can gather what you need when you send out surveys. There's no sense in sending out 2 different surveys.
Yeah.
You send out the same survey, but let the survey address multiple things. So Victoria, you can take it and address one thing about the school, and then Sally, you can take it and address another thing about the school, but you've got it all from the same survey.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's like when we did the needs assessment for the other one, she focused on math, I focused on reading.
Right, and see, that makes sense. Yeah.
So we did it that way, but like with the teacher empowerment stuff, we had to do different surveys, and it just makes, what happens is when you've got a school as big as ours, people don't want to do things twice. They don't want to do it once to begin with. So we've tried to share when we can, but we just want to make sure that you know that, and we don't write it together by any means. So it's going to be different. I look at Victoria sometimes and I'm like, wow, I didn't think about putting that,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and thank you both for sharing that with me. But you've thought it through, and this is just plain old good old common sense to do what you're doing.
Okay. Well, and we break apart the schedule, but she's going to see different things than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it, we're just so closely working together at school. It's so hard for us not to think the same way.
Yeah. And again, at this point, most of it's going to go directly to me from this point on.
Okay.
So the final say so on this will be with me, and a lot with Dr. Lamb as well. So you'll be okay.
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 I'm not putting anybody down. I learned a lot.
I understand where you're coming from, but everybody's different, and
Yep.
And I mean, I demand a lot and I get a lot, but I go about it in a different way.
That's right.
Okay.
I've never been fussed at for not coming.
Right. I try to be diplomatic in what I'm saying too. So.
I know. I get it. I so get it. I just wanted you to hear it from. Listen, I learned a lot from her. I really did. They just gave us, that was the first semester and we needed a lot more help, because I'm telling you, until the APTEL, I was completely lost through the whole APSL. Like, I couldn't see where anything tied together, but I was serious. But then when I started doing the APTEL, I was like, oh, this all goes together.
Right. The light bulb came on, didn't it?
The light bulb, but it took me.
That's all right. That's all right.
I couldn't lie. Listen, Dr. Tillman called me on Thanksgiving Day.
Did she?
I'll never forget it. Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
On that case study, do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just give you the gist and ask if you've heard of this. Okay, it's about two gay guys wanting to go to the prom. Okay, and
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I
Okay.
think I have, yeah.
so my Zoom group met, and I'm supposed to take one section of it, but I was talking, and I've read the book about it. Is there such a thing? Well, I think there is, and I just wanted to verify it with you. The Supreme Court, I think, has talked about what do we say, Victoria? What is common for your community?
Right.
Yeah, something
Like-
to that effect. Like, what is the norm?
What's the
The
norm?
norm of the community as a whole is taken into consideration.
When making those kind of things? Now, I don't think they have a leg to stand on, but I know that in my community, it would be totally different, even than in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Because North Carolina is a little more liberal than where we are. We are in the conservative Bible Belt. I mean, it's a little more liberal than it used to be, but you got to be so careful. And I know she said, talk about what your district would do. So I just wanted to ask you, can I give both sides?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Okay.
I would. And again, I will say that there are a lot of schools, there are a lot of districts that probably are breaking the law because they're holding on to their personal morals and values, and they have just turned their face to what the law says. And that's like prayer in the school.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some schools that still they do prayer in the school, although you're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So it would work the same way. This is what the law says, but and so, and it's
We
just a
pray
matter
at our convocation.
right, and it's just a matter of time before those things. All it takes is one person coming into your school from out of state or whatever, working, and it happening one time, and then them filing a lawsuit or filing a case with what is it called? Anyway,
The board of education. I mean, I don't know. They would file it.
Filing like a grievance.
a grievance, yeah, filing a grievance, or I'm trying to think where I've lost my train of thought. It's in Washington D.C. The Office of Civil Rights, OCR complaint, and all it takes is one time. And,
Yeah, well, I had a girl a couple years ago who, Victoria, were you there when I had Lily?
That
I was
sounds
thinking it was
familiar.
Allie. But anyway, I didn't realize up there we were recording too, Dr. Stedman. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have said.
No. Nobody gets this but me.
Okay.
This doesn't go to anybody but me. I just keep this, so if I need to go back and refer to something, this stays in my library. So don't.
Okay, that's fine. I just realized that, and so, but look,
Nobody gets this.
okay. I had a girl who, we both teach 5th grade, and she wanted to be a boy, and she would not go to the girls' bathroom. She would go to the nurse to go to the bathroom.